Yes, dearest beloved divine friends, family, brothers and sisters, in the raw. RK's Kind of Free Media. And I'm your host, Haji Dr. Ocean Khan. There is so much of confusion and quarrels going on that some people are actually getting annoyed and making some ludicrous, annoying remarks. And it has to do with GECOM CEO choices. According to the Stabroek News, and according to the Guyana Times, it is now down to two, my beloved divine friends and family. And so I'd like to give you the gist of what's happening, taken from the Stabroek News, Guyana, today, Thursday, December 2nd. Jamaican Leslie Harrow and Vishnu Prasad to be interviewed for the post as GECOM CEO comes down to two. We must remember that we had one of the most corrupted system operating by a CEO who has been charged for rigging and obviously a suspected an alleged mass fraud in the GECOM Secretariat, an entire business having to do with GECOM, and it was a business where contracts were going out to friends, family, and political affiliation of the CEO and his favorite party, including security. For 10 years, I beg your pardon, ladies and gentlemen, that CEO blocked my company, RK's Guidance Security Services. He wanted his particular people of a particular political dispensation, an old soldier like himself, and like many in the then government, APNO, to have the security apparatus and position there. With this in mind, I suffered a lot by that CEO and the team that he managed and the GECOM that he actually mismanaged. But let me deal with this here now. We thank God that time of evil era has ended, the entire 5 years of the last government, and the era of the former CEO who has now gone down in shame with his name, disgrace, and the power that shoved him. By Lekram Bhagirat, this article. The Guyana Elections Commission is now close to appointing a new elections officer, CEO, after deciding yesterday that only two candidates, Jamaican Leslie Harrow and Guyanese Vishnu Prasad, will be interviewed for the post. The post became vacant on August 12 after the contract of former CEO Keith Lowingfield was terminated. He faces a series of charges of alleged electoral misconduct before a city magistrate, and I will say even malpractice, deceit, dishonesty, even attempt to rig an election, to destroy maybe our country and our nation, and destroy democracy as we are supposed to have. Back to the article. GECOM met yesterday, a continuation of Tuesday's statutory meeting that was abruptly ended due to a power outage where the battle raged on as to the names of those who should make the final cut. In the end, it was the chair, retired Justice Claudette Singh, who suggested that the commission interview Harrow, who is the Director General of Jamaica's Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management (ODPEM) and Regional Manager of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. And Mr. Vishnu Prasad, who once served as GECOM's Public Relations Officer and Deputy CEO. What is disturbing to me is that we have been spending billions at GECOM, and they had a blackout, and they don't have a generator. I mean, as a taxpaying citizen of high order in this country, all of us who are under pressure economically and still paying our taxes that are due, including the VAT which many businesses are stealing. I mean, it's painful to know that GECOM doesn't have a generator functioning or can't rent one for an important event like this if their generator is out of order. So, beloved divine friends and family, back to the article. The chairman did not express a view that the requirements were met in the case of Vishnu Bisram, but she said that she would like to hear him at an interview. She did not come down to say, I agree or disagree, because we were arguing the case of the basic requirements. Opposition-nominated Commissioner Vincent Alexander told Stabrook News. As the case of Harrow, Alexander said, it is also our contention that Harrow meets the basic requirements, given his 5 years of experience in managing an electoral area in Jamaica that covers more than 1 million persons, 18 offices, and 42 staff members. She, Justice Singh, did not comment on that, but also said that she would wish to hear him in the interview. Prasad said, Prasad and Harrow were among 20 persons who responded to the Commission's advertisement for Lowenfield's replacement, but that number was brought down to 6 of the 6. It was further reduced yesterday to just 2. Then compared against the eligibility criteria as outlined by the Commission. The CEO is expected to play the key leadership role in GECOM's secretariat and is tasked with the responsibility for implementing all aspects of its operations and ensuring that results achieved are consistent with the laws of Guyana and the policies determined by the Commission. The criteria, perhaps the most important shortlisting aspect, stipulated that the CEO is required to be holder of a master's degree and has 10 years of experience in electoral matters. The criteria have been the subject of contention with the opposition side, saying that they are tailored to cater for persons just within the Commission, while pointing to the fact that several of the former CEOs were hired from within. Alexander and his fellow commissioners, Desmond Trotman and Charles Corbin, have been contending that Prasad should not be shortlisted for the post, since he does not meet the required electoral management experience, since the PRO is in no way associated with the management of elections or systems. However, Shadiq and her fellow commissioners, and we're going now to page 22, Gurnu Raj and Manoj Narayan have been arguing that though his official designation was PRO, Vishnu served as Civic and Voter Education Manager, Training Officer, CEO, and DCO for brief periods. Hence, he is suitable qualified. So what is wrong with the PNC's representatives? Here the man was good enough to be Civic and Voter Education Manager, Training Manager, CEO, and the CEO for brief periods. He acted as CEO. Hence, he is suitably qualified. Prasad was initially hired as the personal assistant to then GECOM chair, Dr. Steve Surajbali. In November 2001, and prior to that, he worked in the same capacity at the Ministry of Agriculture. It was under Dr. Surajbali's leadership that Prasad was elevated to the various positions. And we know Dr. Steve Surajbali was a chairman of extraordinary capacities. The decision to shortlist Prasad was not unanimous. Some felt that Prasad did not meet the requirements, while others felt that he met the requirements. We on the opposition side did feel like he did not meet the requirement. Alexander told Stabric News. We did not feel. That doesn't stand for anything. He did not say we are adamant or we are convinced. We did not feel. So you can show that there's some kind of a deceit, as we had seen on the opposition members' side during the elections, and they count and they recount their behavior during the recount and the count of the elections. We know that they had wanted skullduggery to be their reality so they can get what they wanted. Back to the article. Meanwhile, Shadid told this newspaper that interviews will be conducted on Monday, December 6th, at around 1 p.m. Additionally, she said that the commission was in process of notifying Prasad and Haru that they have been shortlisted and are expected to interview for the post. When asked about how the final shortlist was arrived at, Shadid said it was a majority when the commission makes a decision, and the laws also say how the decision was arrived at should not be inquired into even by a court of law. So I would prefer not to say how we arrived at the decision, but yes, the decision was a majority. In addition to the CEO, GECOM is looking to fill the vacancies of the Deputy CEO, Assistant CEO, Chief Accounting Legal Officer, Logistics Manager, the Civic and Voter Education Manager. The same process of commissioners deciding on the final shortlists is expected to be followed. In the meantime, we will meet again tomorrow when we will have the benefit of the CV for all others on the list, and we are going to be finalizing interview lists for DCU, ACU, said possibly legal officer Shadid said. Traditionally, the process employed for hiring the DCU and the CEO involves the GECOM commissioners interviewing the shortlisted candidates and scoring them using a standard scoring sheet. They then bring the scores to the full commission and make recommendations, following which a vote is taken and the successful applicant is appointed to the position. However, with the scrutiny and increased accusations of GECOM being partisan, opposition nominated Commissioner Trotman had tabled a proposal to have an independent panel to conduct the interviews and then submit a report to the commission. However, that was rejected by the commissioner, along with the option of a mixed panel as well. Speaking to the methodology of conducting the interviews, Gundaraj said to the Stabric News that it would be decided when the commission meets later today. Stabric News understands that the interviewing would be done virtually in light of the pandemic, and each commissioner would be judging the applicants based on a set of criteria outlined in their score sheet. Based on the previous score sheets, candidates will be judged on their qualifications, understanding of Guyana's electoral laws and systems, an overall understanding of the electoral landscape in Guyana, among other things. And we know that this gentleman from Jamaica, though he's reasonably qualified and highly respected, he does not understand the technical landscape of Guyana, being Guyana as it is, with all our jungles, all the hinterland areas, the entire coastal belt, with several persons sprinkled in various parts of Guyana that sometimes have never seen even the outer areas of the city. So we need someone who is familiar with our topography, so to say. With the commissioner nominated commissioners favoring Harrow and the government side, with the opposition nominated commissioners favoring Harrow and the government side for Persaud, it looks like Justice Singh may have the decided vote as to who becomes the next CEO. Persaud has been in a situation where his appointment was deadlocked and the chairman had to cast the deciding vote back in 2018. He missed out on the DCO post after then chairman retired Justice James Patterson favored DCEO Roxanne Myers over Persaud, even though he scored higher than Myers in the interview. So, but we know what happened there. Justice Patterson and the former president wanted a particular person, a particular judge who did not go through the processes and the protocols, and was appointed as chairman. Eventually was thrown out by the various courts of appeals and so forth. Harrow spent over 18 years with the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. He started as an office manager in 1997 and served until January 2001. In 2002, he returned to the ECJ as the regional manager, and so on and so on. But we know that our own Vishnu Persaud, his photograph is here, is entitled and should be the one to be selected and voted and chosen, as he knows Guyana and he deserves to be appointed as the CEO of GECOM. Mr. Harrow, on the other hand, to my opinion, will be good in his experience to assist the CEO as he learns about Guyana, and maybe into future elections he can become the CEO. He's obviously highly qualified, Mr. Harrow of Jamaica, as is Mr. Vishnu Persaud, who is experienced with Guyana and who deserves to be appointed. Your friend, your brother, me, Haji Dr. Ocean Khan, in the raw, saying thank you for listening and farewell, my dear, beloved friends.